All right, we are back live, the AllStar MMA live show, recap show, reaction show, and back-to-back weeks. We got Sicko and Jspec on the show to just decompress what happened in Kansas City. There was a lot to talk about, a lot of wackiness on this show, from judges' scorecards to fake retirements to Bill Algeo going heel for I don't know what reason, and then you got Max Holloway and Arnold Allen in the main event just throwing down and just giving us an entertaining fight. Before we get into all of that, before we get into the main event and discuss like what is the future for these fighters, go in the descriptions, download the AllStar app, hit that subscribe button, hit that like, play against us on the app. You could pick fights, like level up in belts, win prizes, and yeah, and just join the community that we're building in that app, man. There's so many people in there right now, and join us. It's gonna be insane. Now, let's get into the main event that we got from UFC Kansas City. It happened less than 24 hours ago, and man, Max Holloway. If you doubted Max Holloway, if you doubted anything about Max Holloway, he showed you in this fight that you should not doubt him, man. He's only 31 years old. You know what I mean? Arnold
Exactly.
Allen, he has that power. He does have the power, and if he flurries in with those winging hooks, and if he catches you like he showed in the Dan Hooker fight, right? He could rock you. I don't know if he has that one shot knockout power yet. You know what I mean? His technique is not as clean as the Max Holloway's, but he showed in like that last round that he can march forward and throw bombs, and if he lands, he can hurt you a little bit. Max, he's got an iron chin though. You know what I mean? He's not a guy that you want to test chins against. And he showed you at like the last second, he hit him with like a sick ass combo and dropped Arnold Allen in the final seconds. Now, a lot of people picked Arnold Allen. They were like, Arnold Allen could win the fight on the judges' scorecards. And a lot of people said that maybe they would, actually, a lot of people said they wouldn't be mad if Arnold Allen would have won on the scorecards. And I'm of the opinion where if Arnold Allen would have won on the scorecards, I would have thought that fight was a robbery, to be honest with you, because Max Holloway looked phenomenal. Let's start with you, J Spec. What did you think of the performances between these two featherweights?
Well, I'm one very happy with it. I think on a positive note, not that people were going too crazy one way or another, because that always kills everything. When you got two good fighters fighting each other, and that's what we got to see. Quality strike, at least when you want to categorize it into the striking department, it was great. We had two dudes striking the whole time. I think there was like under 30 something seconds of control time for the whole fight. Let's check out what the All-Star app has the fight stats. Yeah, 42 seconds, excuse me. 42 seconds of control time in a beautiful 5-round fight. I mean, I'm happy about it. Also, people talking about Allen's got power. Well, he does, and he's good, and he impressed me. One of the question marks I had was 5 rounds. This is this guy's first venture into 5 rounds against a dude who like excels at the format. He passed that with flying colors, like A+ on that, Allen, on your first time out. Now, unfortunately, it's got to be against Max, who just right now is in his peak. He's just peaked. Like, and I'm not saying like, oh, he can't get better at something or whatever, but the dude is all there. He's got all that experience. Someone brought up in our watch party how he was, signed by the UFC as a teenager, 31, like great number of life, year in life to be with all that experience and the body, quickness, cardio, all that shit is like all thumbs up. He's literally firing on all cylinders, and that's all I can really take away from that. So the both, my conclusion is that main event showed us that Allen is a legit fighter with lots of skills, durability, and cardio, and Max is just better and all those things too.
Sicko, you believe all of that? Do you believe all of
Yeah,
that?
every word of it, man. Max still got it. It's still the same Max. It's the same Max. The second best is still blessed. Hey, nothing changed. He still has the ability to eat shots, create angles, I think the second round was brilliant. I mean, just a brilliant round from Max. Everyone's going to say, oh, it was the third round that you're thinking of. No, the second round, he said, I'm going to take off a little bit and I'm going to start attacking this body. I need to drop those hands. And the second round, Max landed some huge body shots. And that carried into the third round. And that's when Max started pouring it on him. So I thought he was just as strategic as can be. He showed the fight IQ. He showed why he's a veteran of this game. He showed why he's been at the top for so long and continues to do it time and time again. Where Arnold Allen, I think, is going to go back and look at this fight, and it's going to be good for him. He did have a good showing. He hits like a damn truck. He caught Max with some big shots, but all left-sided attacks. I don't know if you guys picked up on that too. It was the left hook. It was a left high kick. And I'm like, man, he just isn't. Max had him right where he wanted him. He wasn't able to mix in the attacks, and I think he's going to go back and look at it and say, damn, okay, I need to change some things up. I'm not just going to be able to fight the guys at this level and just be hitting them with that left hand. When he started throwing the right hook a little bit later, especially when he started coming in with the right hook, he actually did land and he started looking good, but that was in the 5th round. I thought Max controlled it. For people that said that Allen might have won that fight 3-2, I don't know what to tell you, man. Just thank God you're not a judge.
If you look at the numbers, right, numbers don't really tell you everything, but if you look at the numbers on the screen right now, he outlanded him in significant strikes. And I don't even know what the hell significant strikes actually means, but if you look at the numbers, he doubled basically what Arnold Allen landed throughout the whole fight. You know what I mean? Headshots 77-48, body shots 42-18, leg kicks 28-10. It was total strikes 149-80. That's a master class in striking, man. Like if you fight, like if Arnold Allen doesn't have the home run shot, if he doesn't land a home run shot, you will lose 100 times out of 100 times against Max Holloway in a fight like this. Strategically, they weren't ready. Arnold Allen wasn't ready. You know what I mean? He has a 10-fight win streak. You know, he's beaten a couple of pretty good guys, right, in that division. I think like the Dan Hooker fight, Dan Hooker was depleted, man. He's a lightweight. He's not a featherweight. He's massive, right? And he just cut too much. And that was his last cut, right? That was his last cut to see if he could actually compete at the top of the division. And respect to Dan Hooker, you know what I mean? That dude fights anybody. Like he'll do what he needs to be done to fight the best guys, right? And that's what he does. And he fought Arnold Allen and he got taken out in the first round. When you fight a guy like Max Holloway that has been at the top of the division for, man, I don't even know how long, dude. Like he's past generations. Like he's like went from one generation to another generation and still kept the level of development, evolution, right? And he's still beating the best guys. And he just took out the guy that everybody thought is going to be the next champ. I don't know, man. I can't commit to saying that Arnold Allen can be the next champ. You know what I mean? Like he's going to be a champion anytime soon, to be honest with you, because think of what Max Holloway just did to him and think what Alex Volkanovski did to Max Holloway.
Yes, that's what.
Just remind yourself.
That's what something we were talking about, man. It's like in this division, there's Volkanovski clearly out in front, Max behind. Clearly, it's clear now. It hurts me to say it, but he is. But Max and him are literally a whole light year. The rest of the field is like, I was making jokes like they should just make a separate belt for those guys. Like that's where the competition is if you're into like competition. But reality, Max and Alex are just too far ahead, dude.
And also, you know, with Volkanovski and Max, those guys, their striking is just so phenomenal. And as well, they have like iron chins, but anybody can get knocked out. Anybody can get sparked, right? If it's the perfect punch. We've
100%.
seen, you know, guys, we've seen Max get rocked before, right? We've seen Alex get rocked before, right? It's not like they haven't been rocked, you know what I mean? But the thing is, like, when you have a fight like this and when guys are fighting like this on a consistent basis, it's just hard to beat them, dude. Like, there's not many guys out there that have that, like, one shot, just shotgun of a strike that they could throw, you know what I mean, over and over again and maybe land on Max or Alex. Now, the big question is, where does Max go from here? You know what I mean? He does have options, right? People think like, oh, he doesn't have options in the he does, man. I'm guaranteeing you Max is getting paid a lot of money to fight. So now he's searching for fights that he wants to take, right? Because why? He has to build a winning streak. You know what I mean? So if he needs to build a winning streak, if he wants to fight for the title again, and especially if somehow Yair goes in there and beats Volkanovski, right? Because Max is only 31, man. He's still like got like maybe 3 or 4 more years in his prime. So he could kind of sit back and beat a couple guys and then slide in because the UFC, they love him. He could probably slide in somewhere where maybe somehow Volkanovski loses the title somewhere. You know what I mean? And even if he doesn't, maybe Max wins a couple more and then they want to put that fight together again, which would just be weird. I would like to see it, but it would be weird. It just would show you the favoritism of the UFC towards Max. Anyways, Max Holloway talks about lightweight, and then he also talks about the Korean Zombie. Sicko, which one would you want?
Korean Zombie. Give Max what he wants. They both want to fight each other. Make it happen. I know everyone remembers Korean Zombie, Volkanovski, how that fight looked. And, it doesn't do anything for Max in terms of rankings and how much better we think he is. But he's already proven that. We all know right now Max is second best in the division. So there is nobody else. So if he wants to take a Korean Zombie, give him that fight. I like it. Make it happen. It's two guys who have been in this game for this long and somehow have never fought each other. I think it's perfect for him. If you go up to lightweight, it's like, all right, well, what are the aspirations there? Does he fight somebody where a ranking is going to matter? Does he fight somebody up and thinking about a run at lightweight? For me, it just makes more sense to do Korean Zombie.
Korean Zombie. Do you agree, Jspec? Do you want to see the Korean Zombie, the shell of Korean? Like, think about like what you're talking about. Where is Max right now in his career? And where is the Korean Zombie in his career? Like, let's think about that deep. I know the matchup sounds beautiful and it looks great on a poster, and the main event. I agree. Like, I agree that I want to see the fight. But is it the best fight for the Korean Zombie to like usher out the door? You know what I mean? Like, because he very, very, very like close to like leaving, right? Like his career is very close to an end. You guys gotta understand with the Korean Zombie, like he's gone through the same surgeries as TJ Dillashaw with his shoulders, both of them.
Wow.
And the reason, and his shoulder keeps popping out, just like TJ Dillashaw. And from what I heard, the reason why he pulled out of the fight with Giga Chikadze was the shoulder. So what do you do for him? Like, you give him Max Holloway? Especially 5 rounds, Max Holloway might kill the Korean Zombie. Like, we might see the first death in the UFC in the cage, which I don't want. You know what I mean? Like, he will beat the shit out of the Korean Zombie. And I love the Korean Zombie. I'm Korean, man. Like, why would I not support one of my peoples, right? But Max Holloway will beat the shit out, like literally, like he will be doo-dooing in his pants by the end of that fight. And drooling, like this will be a bad thing, right? Like, but the thing is, the UFC, they will put that together because they're sick.
Oh yeah.
They're very sick, right? They're very sick, and
they're
all about money.
Ever cared?
Yeah, like I think that's a goal of the new management. Like that's, think about all the things they've accomplished. They've never got a guy to shit their pants and like from getting punched. Obviously, there's the Romero incidents and other grappling greasing incidents. But let's all jokes aside, Zombie and Max, no matter what year it is, it's great. Like, let's do it because of all those things you just said, JHK. Like, it's not going to be great. The odds are against Korean Zombie in that regard. Like, it's not great for Zombie fans at this time. But if his career is really over or near the end, which I think it is, I fully agree. I can't see how it's not. He's high mileage. And all of that being said, give him an opponent where, like you said, the poster's fucking great and everybody's going to want to watch. And, like, let Zombie's final fight be Zombie-esque. Let him show his toughness, the worst compliment we got, right? Let
First
him
compliment in
let
MMA.
fucking Zombie be Zombie for us one last fucking time. Even if, because we're not under some kind of thinking, and I don't think anyone's thinking that Zombie's gonna be running for the title soon. So like, just give him a fucking fight against the best name that makes sense. Volkanovski makes no sense, so the very next best name for Zombie, for respect, for martial arts pride, for why not, for old school, for the names, all of it. And being a little bit of a business guy, like, just think about it from the promoters. I don't know, Steel Sickles line, promoter's hat now. I mean, it's a good draw. It's a good ass draw. So why not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you're sick, right? If you're sick and you're the promoter, yes, you put that fight together. And Sicko's agreeing he wants that fight.
Guilty.
And a lot of fans, they want that fight, right? Because Max deserves what he wants. And I think the Korean Zombie, he's been saying that he wants Max Holloway. He's
Why
been
not?
saying he wants that fight. And he knows that that fight will get him paid as well. And I don't see, you see, the thing is, like, I don't like say like a fighter should retire, but if the fighter is talking about retirement and then they want a fight that they want to retire with, you give it to them, right?
And that's the thing. If it was not Zombie calling out Max, then that would completely change the narrative for me. But they're both wanting that fight. And if it doesn't make sense to you in terms of where they're at or title aspirations or where that puts you, I say this a lot, Rob. You're going to know this line, man. I say it all the time. The UFC is a sport. Secondly, it is an entertainment company first. And as long as it's entertaining, they're going to make it happen.
Yeah. And the thing is, from my sources, they won't put on a UFC event in Korea unless the Zombie is headlining that show. So
makes sense.
what would be that would be, and there's so many Max Holloway fans in Korea as well, right? So like that would be a crazy main event. Even the Korean Zombie, just him being in the main event would sell tickets. It would sell out an arena. But with Max Holloway as well, even when Brian Ortega came over, like there was a lot of interest, right? Even though he didn't fight because he pulled out, but there was a lot of interest in that fight as well. You know what I mean? Because I remember going to the press conference and everything. Yeah. So Max Holloway, Korean Zombie in Korea later this year would be great. Main event. There's a lot of Korean fighters. There's a lot of Asian fighters that could be on that card. And they did cancel a card earlier this year because of the Zombie pulling out, right? It shows you the power that he has, right? Not the power that he has, but the drawing power that he has within Korea. And I think if they do a farewell fight for the Korean Zombie, you have to have it in Korea, dude. Like, you cannot put it in Australia. You cannot put it in the US. You put it in Korea.
I would love to say that, but the way Dana White has been admitting all of the mess ups, the screw ups that the UFC has been doing lately, I could see them not having it in Korea, to be honest with you. It would be just crazy, but I can see that.
Even if they do it in Singapore, like, just do it in Asia or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Korea would be the perfect location. But if it's not, it's not, whatever. You know what I mean? But the thing is, I like to see, because that fight might not happen and it might not even materialize. I like to see Max, since he's in his prime right now, to go chase after that lightweight title. I think he should I think he should drop everything at featherweight and just go to lightweight. Because why not do it now and see if you can get close? Because the thing is, Max will jump in and he'll jump into the top 10. Guaranteed he'll get a top 10, because we already went up there and fought Dustin Poirier for the interim title, right? And he lost, but I don't think that's a lightweight Max Holloway.
No.
You need to make a lightweight version of Max Holloway.
Yes.
I think once you make a lightweight version of Max Holloway, give him some time to get bigger, to get used to the body, and then fight. I think there's a couple of fights in the top 10 that would be really good, and maybe even like catapult him into like the title talk immediately if he does win the fight. There's two fights that I like to see. The first fight is Justin Gaethje. I think Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway, a lightweight Max Holloway, would be a fire fight, especially the styles that they bring. I know Gaethje has the power probably advantage, but I don't know. He's smarter fighter now, man. I think, and at lightweight maybe it will be different. And another fight that I like to see before he walks away, and I know he's been talking about, I don't want to go to lightweight unless it's two options, right? It's a title fight or it's Conor McGregor. But I would like to see him fight RDA. I think that would be a good matchup with him. RDA is sitting at number 8 or number 9 in the rankings. That would be actually a better fight for Max Holloway. What do you guys think?
I will jump in and say I like the idea of him moving to lightweight if only if like it doesn't seem, I guess it's starting to seem like the only possibility is him and Volk again. Like it seems like the more they separate from their herd, the more this kind of makes sense. Because I agree with your statement earlier that a fourth fight with Volk makes no sense. So then it starts to be like, yeah, what are we gonna do? I want to say that I'm curious on how long it will take for him to become a legitimate lightweight, because when we seen him fight Dustin, that shit wasn't close, because not the technique, the striking element, the power, the size difference between the two men, it was so definitive. So I'm just worried about how long this is going to really take to be a good full figured Max in this lightweight class, because I mean, just the body type is just kind of, it's going to be weird for me to see him put on that kind of muscle. He's going to have to get quite bigger. I'm just saying, at 31 and a half.
Volk did it.
Volk was a way bigger man at earlier in life.
I know, but Volk did it. You know what I mean? I think if Volk can do it, you get the right scientists around you. You know what I mean? If you get the right dietitian.
How long does it take for him?
It takes like a good 6 months or something like that, right? I think Volk took around that much time where he kind of altered his training and his diet and all that stuff. And he looked like he was doing really well against, arguably an unbeatable lightweight, right, in Islam,
Right.
which looked beatable against Volk. So, Sicko, what do you think?
I like it, especially the Gaethje fight. You talk about damage. There's damage delight between those two guys, man. You want to test Max's chin? Justin Gaethje's a guy that'll test Max's chin for sure. I like it, especially if it's a 5-rounder, man. That fight would be really exciting. The RDA fight to me sounds great too. I mean, I'm definitely tuning in. Anything that Max takes at that lightweight, I would tune in. I'd be interested in. But I really like the Justin Gaethje. The problem is that weight class, to me, wouldn't it just be so great if Yair goes in there and shocks everybody and beats Volkanovski? Then we could get some movement in that division. I know it's a long shot. I know everyone's like, oh, if you think Yair could win, you're crazy. Even Max said it himself.
No, you're not crazy.
Don't sleep on Yair. Even Max said it. Don't sleep on him. He's tricky. He's weird. He throws kicks from angles. Go back and watch the second fight between Max and Volk. Max gave him a lot of problems with different kicks. I don't know if Volk has ever faced a kicker to the pedigree of Yair. Like, if there's one spot trying to find his head, trying to wrestle him, all those things, it's going to fail. But when I think about Yair and attacking the legs, attacking the body with different types of kicks and how fast he is, who knows, man? And if that happens, then we start getting movement. I think if that happens, then forget about any of those guys going to lightweight. Let lightweight handle their own stuff out. Volk, Max, all of them all of a sudden start having things to do with their own division. I think that, best case scenario, Yair finds a way to get it done.
Yeah, that's best case. So I think you sit back. Max has, he has options. He sits back, watches how that plays out, and picks, what he needs to do. I think Max, he needs to make the move this year. He has to. Either he decides, because when you get up there in age, you don't want to get up there in age too late and try to chase for the second title, right? And that's why Volk was he was chasing after Islam like he was, because he knows he doesn't have many years left, and he's older than Max, and he doesn't have many years left to get the big fights. So he's just like, I gotta go chase these big fights, and if I don't get it, then I'll go back to defending the title. And I agree with you. I think Yair's he's gonna be difficult in the way of the diversity of strikes that he throws. That Volk. Of course I favor Volk in every matchup, right? But Yair does have some power, and he does have a Rubik's cube of movement and strikes, and he has the speed as well. So you can't take him lightly. But the thing is, Volk has the wrestling, and you might see that in that fight. Well, we're not talking about that fight though. We'll talk about that fight in the future. But that's what we see for Max. Arnold Allen, though, you know what I mean? where does Arnold Allen go from here? You know, I mean, he loses for the first time in the UFC, so he's 10-1, right? And he loses to Max, which, you know, he lost to Max, right? It's just like, all right, does he go back in the rankings? Hell no. I think he stays real tight in his spot in the rankings, which is number 4. And you know who I would like to see him fight next? And I would like for them to put that Calvin Kattar fight back together. I think that's the fight that, you know, Kattar's, he looks like he's still recovering. But the thing is, like, I would like to see that, or put him against Giga Chikadze, which he's sitting at number 8. Calvin's number 7. You know, you fight back in the rankings, right? I think those are the options for him, man. There's not much. Well, there is much, but I think those are probably the best options. Let's move on to the co-main event. Barboza, first round knockout against Billy Q, right? Billy Q, a lot of people were picking Billy Q. He was the favorite heading into the fight. People thought Billy Q will go in there and overwhelm him. And that's looked like what he was trying to do with the game plan, right? Is march forward, a lot of volume. And Barboza was just ready for the mistakes that Billy Q will be making when he throws strikes. And it was just perfect, dude. Like, the knee was perfect. And did you see after the fight that he was explaining to the team, like Billy Q's team, how he landed the knee? Like, he was explaining to his coaches.
No,
You didn't see that video?
I missed that.
There's a video, like, after the fight in the cage, like, he was trying to explain to them, like, how he landed that knee, how he was prepared for Billy Q to come in with the jabs and his head down, and then he comes in with the takedowns, and then it was just perfect. I picked Billy Q to win the fight, but I betted that Barboza would win the fight. So on the app, I picked Billy Q, but on my bets, I picked Barboza. And sometimes it works out. It's like Jocelyn Edwards. I picked Jocelyn Edwards to win on the bet, right? And she got lucky, and I got lucky as well. But anyways, what do you guys think of that fight? Did it play out like you expected, Sicko?
No, I did not expect Barboza to put him out like that. You know, I was rooting for Barboza. I wanted Barboza to win, but I think I went with everybody else and I picked Billy Q to win. 2-fight losing streak for Barboza. He hasn't won in a long time. He's coming off of knee surgery. All those things, I'm like, man, his back is against the wall here. So I feel great that he had all of that stuff on him and he was able to get that kind of win. But I didn't expect it to happen that way. And you talked about it. He actually saw it earlier. There was an earlier read in the fight where Billy Q threw that exact same thing. It was a overhand right into that shot, and Barboza was able to pummel out, circle off, and he just immediately was like, yep, that's the shot I'm looking for. There it was. He's going to do it again. And I mean, the timing on it, as soon as he saw the right hand, he's like, here comes that knee. Here's my surgically repaired knee right to your face. And I did not expect that at all, but it's good for him, man, to see somebody on a losing streak who's gone through all this. A lot of people were counting him out. So to see him come back and get a win like that, man, I couldn't be happier for him.
For sure. And, you know, everybody expected Barboza to not be himself, you know what I mean? Not to be the guy that we expected, that we've seen in the past, right? Because he had the knee injury, he can't coming back real fast. And Billy Q just had that style, right? Where he just marks forward, he could take damage, and then he takes over in the later rounds. So that's why I picked Billy Q to win the fight, right? But I took a chance on Barboza. Jspec, what did you think of Edson?
Mr. Barboza. I mean, he put all of our mouths stuck open. We were all in just complete shock while watching it. I think there was a small contingent of people who just believed in Barboza because the dude's a great fighter in general. And they kind of were just like, I don't care about the bad news. I don't care. You know, I'm just going to support the guy. And that's totally cool. But man, I don't think anybody expected it to be this kind of highlight, just literally amazing performance. Not just cool, not just, oh, great fight. Like, no, like amazing performance. So, could he win the fight? Yeah, that sentiment was out there. But on the other side, Billy Q looked good. You know, I don't want to discredit a guy who, you know, kicked my ass. But the reality is he kind of repeated himself a couple times. And if I can see your attack pattern replicating, and I'm pretty sure Sickle saw it too. And if we can fucking see it replicating, then a striker or high level fighters like these guys, and especially a seasoned vet like Barboza, he's not just reading that it's a duplicate. He's already knows it's a duplicate, and he's inserting the correct counter to that duplicate. So it was I want to say it was just a lot of beautiful stuff. It was good to see his body healed. He looked amazingly tan. Like the dude's already always has a great tan, but he like ultra tan and ultra ripped. He just looked like everything was just great. Well, like a storybook night. I hope a shit ton of pictures got taken for Mr. Barboza, and like he has these memories forever, because this is one of those nights where like everything about you was just on perfect. And there's only so many times you get that in your life. So good stuff. And I was just really shocked at Billy Q just being slumped over and not really knowing at first like how badly he had lost. I don't know if he saw that part where he finally comes back to, and he's a little bit like, no, what, really? And then it took, time has to process in his brain. So that the fact that he got switched completely deactivated was just wow. And on the other hand, good to see that he's all well and good and could walk out of there. And so once again, fight amazing. I loved it. And a Barboza made an asshole out of me in conclusion, because I went against him. I was like, no, you can't. All the stuff you were saying, JHK, the knee stuff, all that other stuff. I was one of those guys. I was selling Barboza stock way too low. I'm a loser for it, but good for him. Happy for it. Happy to see it.
Has Billy Q been knocked out before?
Yeah, I believe so.
By
we'd have to look that up. Let me see.
Was it Kyler Phillips? Was that, or who was it? Somebody
The
else
Matrix?
did.
Yeah,
Maybe I got
that was
mixed
the second knockout loss of his career. He was knocked out by a head kick, like in 2016. Michelle Quinones.
Quinones, that's it. Got that mixed
After,
up.
but other than that, yeah, he's got a chin, man. That was just perfect placing. I mean, we've seen Edson we've seen him do this many times, right? Flying knee on Dariush, right? Spinning head kick knockouts. I mean, just insane highlight reel. Like his highlight reel is one of the best highlight reels you'll ever see. And his strength of schedule, man. If you look at his strength of schedule, it's just, you got to respect it, man. At 37 years old, he's still fighting the come up guys, you know what I mean? And guys that are super, super dangerous. He does have a lot of losses, but just look at the dude, his list is crazy, dude. Like from the start, it's just insane, like who he has fought. And like he has been fighting in the UFC since 2011. No, 2010 is when he made his UFC debut. UFC 123. That is insane, dude.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's fought Cerrone, Bobby Green, Michael Johnson, Paul Felder, Tony Ferguson, Pettis, Melendez, Dariush, Habib, Kevin Lee, Hooker, Gaethje, Felder twice, Dan Ige, Burgos, Chikadze, Bryce Mitchell. That is
everybody.
Another RDA fights everybody, list. Man. Every big name.
Insane list, man. Much respect to Edson Barboza, man, and yeah, he does. He just has the perfect body, dude. Like his head shape is perfect. Like he's never out of shape. Like you never seen him come into a fight where he's not like ripped, jacked. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it just, I mean, he's gifted. He's just gifted, right? And he's gifted with like knockout power in his legs. Like mostly it's his legs, his knees, and his kicks and stuff like that. Yeah, man, crazy fight in that one. Let's get into some other stuff. We're not gonna go through every single fight, of course, but we're gonna get into some talking points. Chris Gutierrez, exposed or not? Sicko, Chris Gutierrez.
Yeah, to me, it was a little similar to the Font Yanez fight, where we were like, okay, we've seen Munoz not look the same anymore. Just the same way we saw Font not look the same anymore. Here's this up and coming guy. We say he's going to be the best striker or one of the best strikers in the division, and then they lose a striking match. Where you're just like, oh, okay, I didn't see that going. Early in that fight, Pedro caught him early, gained his respect, and ever since that first round knockdown, he was like, all right, I don't want to play this game with Pedro anymore, and he just never really went for it after that. And Pedro just looked great, man. But yeah, for Gutierrez, if another one of those guys where we had hope for him, but I think what we're gonna have to start learning now is you have to be able to mix it up, man. It's just so tough to say I'm just a striker. I'm going to put people out. Once you get to that upper echelon of the division, guys who have fought the who's who, guys that know how to game plan, that put together a well-structured game plan for what you have to offer, you have to be able to switch things up on them. And Gutierrez is just another guy. Like I said, it reminded me so much of that, of Adrian Yanez when he fought Rob Font just last week.
If you look at the numbers, Gutierrez actually won the fight on numbers. Like just looking at numbers, right? That doesn't mean you won the fight, but if you look at the numbers, he outlanded him in total strikes 79-74, significant strikes 77-60, head shots 30-20, body shots 8-6, leg kicks 39-34. What do you have to say to that, Jspec?
That the stats tell a numerical story that doesn't always line up what you get to see. You don't, the one number that's on this stat list that we didn't get to cover in those stats was that knockdown, and in reality, that single knockdown won that early first round, which, maybe in a different circumstance could have been scored differently and yada, yada, but that knockdown is significant. And think about, I think everybody's in this room's done some of it. Like, bro, when you get stung or knocked down early in the sparring session, and that's all I can relate to, like, is you kind of fucking like get stuck on one. Like, the rest of your repertoire, the rest of your fight menu doesn't unfold in your brain because you kind of got served early on, and that's just what happened. So I don't know if that played into that, the outcome versus stats. And the other thing is, I was making jokes about it all fight long. The way these guys look, mirror each other. The way these guys mirror one another is amazing. And I think if in kind of a anime kind of way, if you're fighting your dead twin, your mirrored self, you're technically gonna win or lose that fight by a very close margin. And I think that's what it was. We had a close margin, two guys who are skilled, look like each other, fight like each other. And I don't think Gutierrez is all that bad. He just got caught and sat down in that first round. And I think that just was
the tone.
Yeah, the tone. That was it. That was the thing.
The rest of the fight. Yeah.
And then you fought someone who fights just like you. I'm sure that's got to be pretty tough to overcome in its own unique circumstantial kind of way.
In this fight, man, yeah, he did get the knockdown early, and then the striking battles, were back and forth. I could say that they were back and forth. Just from my recollection of the fight, I believe Pedro Munoz did win the fight. It's just, I think this is a good fight for Gutierrez, because he had a few fights where he won by split decision, very narrow, right? And he was sitting on that long win streak as well. This is going to be a good reality check for him, because sometimes you talk to fighters. I talk to fighters, and they tell me, like, you do kind of get complacent in ways, and maybe he was getting complacent, and he was feeding off the hype, because that flying knee knockout thing that he did against Edgar, right? It was just like, it was just blown out of proportion in many ways, right? Because Edgar just wasn't himself anymore, right? That was like, Edgar was just going into fights looking for knees to eat, right? Because look at what Corey Sandhagen did to him. It was just sad to see that happen.
It's funny.
Right? Anyway,
it's funny you say that, because during the fight, we're talking about how it's funny that he gets all this extra credit, or this maybe too much credit. Oh, you're a great striker because you got that highlight knockout. And at the very same time, during the watch party, people were like, well, him kind of beating Frankie Edgar means nothing. It doesn't really prove like where he is in the ranking or how good he is as a fighter. So it's like, damn, like double-sided sword is a real thing. So I was just saying that to bring that up.
And yeah, so it's just a good reality check, you know what I mean? Just like Yanez as well, you know what I mean? Just a good reality check to go back and just work. Just work, man, because a lot of these guys, that's all they need to do is just to work and just to be motivated. And they're both top 15 fighters. So they're going to get another good matchup, and we're going to see another great fight. Gutierrez, he's phenomenal talent, man. Like the way he moves and his feints, right? And just like being able to being able to throw your legs out there all the time to kick somebody's calf continuously. That's a savage. Have you ever kicked someone's calf? Like your calf, your shins are super sensitive, and to be out there for 15 minutes just throwing your shins against someone else's shins is just
he must be conditioning the hell out of him.
Yeah,
He must be kicking
it
the
takes
shit out of the bed.
dedication and like mental fortitude to go through all of that just to beat somebody up. Anyways, the next one on the list of things that happened on this event was his teammate Brandon Royval. Man, he goes into this fight and he pretty much did what Gutierrez did to Edgar, but he did it to Mateus Lickerline with that knee, man. That knee just like once he landed that knee, he just like collapsed like an elevator, right? It just went down like an elevator, just and then he finished him off. I was actually doing an interview during that fight, so I didn't really get to watch the fight live, but I did see the highlight. And Brandon Royval, man, if you look at his strength of schedule since he's been in the UFC, people don't give him enough credit. Like he hopped in and he fought Tim Elliott ranked. Then he fought Kai Kara France ranked, a title challenger. Then he fought the now champion Brandon Moreno, and he had a separated shoulder, right? Who knows what could have happened in that fight? You know what I mean? Then he fought Pantoja, who's fighting for the title next. And then he beat Bontarine. Then he beat Schnell. And then now he beats Nikolai. In a lot of those fights, I believe he was the underdog in those fights, right? This fight, he was the underdog. The Schnell fight, he was the favorite. The Bontarine fight, he was the favorite. But then the other fights, he was the underdog as well. Man, what do you think of Brandon Royval? I think he's the future of the division, man. I think that the UFC, he's a risk taker. And UFC, they like those types of fighters, right? Do I think that he beats Brandon Moreno? It's hard to say, right? Because Brandon Moreno, the dude's just much more calculated than a lot of the other flyweights in the division, right? And Pantoja, if he fought Pantoja again, do I think Brandon Royval beats Pantoja? I think he has a very high chance. In my opinion, if you watch that fight closely, Pantoja, he might have pulled off that submission just in time, because if Royval escaped that, I think that he would have put all the beating on him, right? Because he was just dead tired. But where do you see Royval Sicko going from here? They say he's the backup for the title.
Yeah, he's next in line in my opinion. The UFC likes finishes. They like exciting fighters. You just mentioned it, how exciting he is. When you get a first round finish like that in that fashion, I think it puts you right there. He did all the right things. You can tell leading in how much pressure he had on himself, how angry he was about, you just said it earlier, that people don't appreciate Brandon Royval. The UFC doesn't appreciate Brandon Royval. They had to come out afterwards and say, yeah, he's right. We screwed up. He should have been on the main card. Too late. You guys should have had him on the main card. That knockout should have been the opening start to the main card. You guys screwed up. You can't screw up again. Brandon Royval deserves it. He should be next in line. He should get the winner for that for his title challenge. So credit to him, man. He did everything he was supposed to do. I mean, that fight was just non-existent. The fact that he caught him coming in with a left hook, which is something you don't really see. Like the Barboza fight, he caught him as he threw the right hand and then tried to level change, where Nikolai was throwing a left hook as he caught him with a knee. So that read, the timing on that was nuts. To be able to do that as somebody's right in the middle of a punch, really impressive.
And he had his hands down.
Yeah.
Like most of the time when you throw the knee, your hands are down, right? And they saw something. He saw something, right? Like that's what's crazy about fighting is that you have to see things so well. You know what I mean? I know some fighters they just go in there and throw strikes and they're just seeing if they can land it or not. But then there's certain fighters that see certain like movements, certain feints, like they see like the hip move and then the elbow comes out and they're like, oh no, they know that something's coming. So they know like, okay, now I gotta throw this because that goes to the coaching, right? Like Factory X, one of the best teams out there. Um, yeah, it was beautiful, man. Jspec, Nikolai was he riding the hype train a little too tight?
Ah, man, it's hard for me to be the judge on this because I was buying into it, you know. So what I'm gonna say? Like, I gotta sell it some more. Yeah, he's legitimate. I was totally on it. I got ran into the unstoppable force now that seems to be Brandon, and man, can I go back half a step to I was underappreciating Mr. Royval. I was discounting him a little too much. I like the UFC wasn't seeing, this perfect thing right in front of me this whole time. I've held the shoulder popping out on him against him now a few fights and I've paid the price for it. So I am publicly admitting and saying that I am now aboard the Brandon Royval hype train. Whatever hype train there was for Nicolau has grenaded into tiny little Lego pieces, and I take my stuff and I move over to the Royval train because he's just likable. He's likable. He's good.
Fun.
He's way more durable than I thought. And obviously he's got something going on. I can't put my finger on it exactly, but all those things that you mentioned, like to have that vision, that fight vision, to have that camp, whatever it is, like all those things are really working for him right now. And I just think I should have switched earlier, but man, because I liked Royval like earlier, but that once again that shoulder injury, like I couldn't get over myself. I kept thinking like, oh, he's gonna be like a Mr. Potato Head from now on. Like anytime somebody tries to grapple with him or bring him down, pop goes the shoulder. But boy, I guess we won't have to worry about that shoulder no more. And it's clear that he is making. I going to that title statement. Like, of course, he definitely should be the next up. And I'm happy to see this guy fight. I want a lot more Royval in my calendar rotation as we go through the season. I hope he fights not just for the belt, but then maybe more often than that. He's good. He's good shit.
Yeah, he's only 30 years old, right? So he's like hitting his prime, and he's already got fights with legends of the division. Seriously, like legends of the flyweight division. He's got fights against them, and he's got wins against title challengers. So it's gonna be interesting, man. I like Brendan Royval. I think he's gonna be a staple for the next couple of years. He's gonna be fighting Brandon Moreno again. He's gonna be fighting Pantoja again. I think he's gonna be fighting all those. Even like Manel Kopp. I think that would be an insane fight. Brandon Royval versus Manel Kopp. A lot of people thought Manel Kopp beat Mateus Nikolai, right? And it was a split decision, close fight. Either way. But future matchups, I could see that happening. Bill Algeo versus TJ Brown. That was the fight of the night. That was an insane fight. TJ Brown, dude, like the dude just is always in like slobber knockers. You know what I mean? That's what people like to say. And what'd you guys think of that fight? What do you think is wrong with like how TJ Brown fights? Because it seems like he does have opportunities to finish fights, and sometimes it just slips from his paws. And then eventually, do you think it's conditioning too? Did you feel like he did kind of gas in that fight just because he was just going 100 miles per hour? Sicko, what did you see?
I don't know, man. I don't think that I saw him gassing. He just got caught. He was winning the fight. He looked good. I thought he was gonna get the finish himself. And you're doing great till you're not doing great. And unfortunately, that's what happened to him. Yeah, the output. Now that I actually look at these stats here, the output was pretty crazy. But so was Algio's, right? 49 strikes thrown to 123. Like I don't think his pace was that crazy for him. I thought he just got caught in this one. Does seem to be something that reoccurs for him. So maybe he has to go back and be a little bit more strategic and maybe not, go so balls to the wall. But dude, it's fun, man. It's hard whenever somebody is getting that type of credit, whenever somebody's saying, hey, look out for this dude, be interested in this guy, look at the way he fights, look at how awesome he is. It's hard to know that you're getting all that praise, even in losses, and then say, all right, let me really be strategic here. Let me take my time. Let me pick my shots better. So I think it's up to him, and they have to have that conversation with him and say, look, what are the expectations moving forward? What are we really trying to accomplish here? What are we really trying to do? Similar to a conversation that Justin Gaethje had, right? They said that he had that conversation once in the past where he went from, I want to be the most entertaining fighter in the UFC to, okay, I want to be champion now. I think Brown might have to have that heart to heart with himself and say, all right, where do I want to go from here? Do I really want to make a run at some stuff? Or am I just like, hey, this is who I am, and it's fun and it's exciting and it's going to actually prolong my career in the UFC? Because believe it or not, losing in that fashion does actually still prolong your career in the UFC because they love somebody that's going to come in and fight like that.
For sure. What'd you think, Jspec?
One, I want to say that TJ looked great. I want to take part of what Sicko said and just expand on it. He looked great, dude. He was slipping, he was ducking, he was like, I mean, he was just on fire. And Aljo was fighting good too, but TJ was on fire and landing some sick body shot, like counter slips and rips. Like, dude, I don't know. I think it's one of those things where do you try to ask a fighter, or do you like punish yourself mentally for an amazing performance that just this is fighting, and just so happened you have a skilled guy on the opposite side and took advantage of a moment in time? I mean, it really did get fight of the night. That's 100%.
Should have.
I hope it maybe it did. It did, JHK? Sorry,
Yeah,
I missed because I didn't catch up with that. The fact that that's kind of like reinforcement in itself, like to me, that I was doing at least some stuff right. So that doesn't send me the signal, that kind of feedback. If I'm getting a bonus check, even though I lost, that's not the kind of feedback that's going to make me want to overhaul my entire game. Also, like that is his style, right? Like what I think we see a lot of fighters try to like change too much and it backfires. So I think this is just a little bit of well done, Mr. Algio, like good for you, but it wasn't easy. Like this was kind of not going your way. Most like to me, I was having TJ winning this fight. Like so yeah, I guess in my conclusion, great fight. I wouldn't ask TJ to change too much. As a fan, I love seeing what I'm seeing. And if we can get these kind of fights, that's good to me.
Zach Cummings, Ed Herman, double retirement fight, illegal up kicks. Like if without those illegal up kicks, I think Zach Cummings would have won that fight. He would have finished that fight much sooner.
For sure.
But Ed Herman was getting desperate, right? Ed Herman, I didn't know he was planning to retire. I had no idea. I don't think anybody did. Zach Cummings, yes, he was talking about it. I interviewed him. He was talking about it. He wanted to retire. And he looked good, man, against Ed Herman. Ed Herman just looked like, I don't know, man. First of all, Ed Herman, like every part of his body looked like it was in shape except for his stomach for some reason.
True.
Right? He had that alcoholic's belly where like they're skinny everywhere else, but their belly is just sticking out, right? Like, but he had it like as a in shape person, right? It was just very odd to see that in the cage, and he was wearing like extra small shorts. For some reason.
That's what I wanted to bring
super
up.
tight as well. I was just like, where did that come from? Did he lose a bet against somebody? I don't know. Because he usually wears like those big, like long board shorts, right?
Right, old school.
He's an
style.
old school guy. Yeah, he's an old school guy. That was just a sloppy fight. That was a fight that I thought Zach Cummings was gonna win from the start. You know what I mean? He just looked way lighter on the feet. He didn't have to cut weight. You know what I mean? Everybody was looking at him and body shaming him because he just didn't look like an athlete. But man, he didn't have to cut weight. He didn't have to lose all that body fat. He just went in there, basically 2 weight classes up, and still had power, and went in there and won the fight. What was that like? Did you get emotional, Sicko? Like that fight was just weird, right?
Am I supposed to say yes? I'm supposed to say yes, right? I'm supposed to say I
I
got
don't know.
emotional during that double retirement.
I don't know.
I mean, I guess it's a cool story, man. Two guys have been around for a long time, but like, I was just like, all right. To me, these are two guys that should be retiring, especially on Herman's side. I'm like, yeah, you should retire, even if he went in there and didn't have the mindset of retiring after the whooping he got put on him. He was probably like, you know what, man, this dude's retiring and he just did what he did to me. I don't want to fight any of these other cats out here. If the guy who's ready to go beat the crap out of me like that. I mean, the retirement needed to come from his side. I mean, 3 knockdowns, the damage that he took, it was tough. It was tough to watch it. I wanted him to finish it earlier, Cummings, that is. I felt like he could have definitely finished it earlier, even in the second round. I was like, man, if he just puts his foot on the gas here, Herman looked like he was ready to go from the beginning of that second round. But yeah, man, 2 legends, 2 OGs. They've been around for such a long time, getting out at the right time, right matchup. Double retirement was cool to see. I mean, we don't really see that often. Have we ever seen a double retirement before?
Not
Is that the first one ever?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's cool, man. I mean, something for the record books. You guys both retired at the same time. You know, they put their gloves down in front of each other, you know, bowed in front of each other. Like, it was cool. It was what it was.
I don't like the bowing in front of each other thing. It's just, to me, it's very weird. I don't
over the top, huh? We're on Disney, you know.
It's a little over the top, you know what I mean? Another thing that I don't like is when a fighter wins and then they go and try to raise the hand of the losing fighter. It's like it's not helping.
Thanks, pal. Thanks. You just beat the shit out of me.
It's not helping, you know what I mean? Especially if it was like a close, controversial fight as well. It's like you're not really helping anything. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know, man. To me, it was good to see Zach Cummings come back after basically a career-ending injury, to come back one more time for his daughter and his family and his friends in his hometown to get the victory, to get both of them got bonuses as well. You know what I mean? Of course, because they're leaving, they're retiring. I wouldn't be surprised if Ed Herman comes back, to be honest with you. But they got the bonus. And we move on, man. There's nothing to say else about that. Pierre Rodriguez, did she tap Jspec? That's another question. Did she tap?
Yep. I just wanted to go devil's advocate on that one. I didn't see a clear tap. In real time when they showed it at speed, it seemed tap-ish in the moment, and we get the replays, we get all this extra time to talk about it and think about it. Peterson has one moment to interpret that and has a fighter's safety in his hands, which he only has microseconds now to make this decision on what's the best outcome to do. You know, worst case scenario, he calls it a little early and a woman takes an L on a professional record, makes another wrong choice, lets her sit there and get her stuff popped. You know, you might have just changed a person's career forever. You know, one single loss versus, you know, what damage could become from a broken arm, you know, as a pro fighter. That it's tough. It's tough stuff. So did I like the stoppage? No. By the way, Keith also stopped, and I'm blanking right now. He stopped another fight a little too soon too. Like Bozer, thank you. So I don't know. He had his settings on ultra sensitive that night, Mr. Peterson did. But when it comes to, you know, safety of the fighter, that is one thing. Like, we're all like, ref, you didn't make the right call for the outcome of the fight because of my bet. Well, the other obligation is to safety and well-being of fighters. And we saw just not 2 weeks ago or whatever it was, that Fury FC fighter almost losing his life and is permanently damaged in his arm from a shit ref. Obviously, Keith Peterson way levels above that. So it can't, I don't know. I don't like to be on two sides of a thing. We got to protect the fighters, or we as in fans, and obviously the league does, the commission does. There's an obligation to their well-being is what I was trying to say. And not every situation is going to be perfect. So to answer it straight up, did I see a tap? No. Do I think she tapped? No. But shit happens, and she was locked up though. Like, that's why I do want to put a butt in there. Like, it looked locked up to me. she looked like the only next thing to happen was for damage to happen. Like she wasn't progressing in any form of escaping. She wasn't hitchhiking. Like from what I saw, she was pretty much stuck in an armbar.
Well, yeah, what a lot of people didn't see, for people that were really paying attention to that, go back and watch it. Jillian was changing the angle on it. When he stopped her, she was changing it over the hip, and she was about to tuck it behind and start bridging again. If she got to that position, it's fucking full hyperextension. Like, shit's gonna start popping. In my opinion, he saved her arm. Good job. Did she tap? Maybe not, but he saved her arm from where I was looking at it. She was not getting out of there. I promise you that.
Well, I think Jillian Robinson is an extreme threat in that strawweight division. Her grappling and her submission game, even off her back on top, I think she gives 80% of the girls in that division serious problems. Like, I think she finishes like 80% of the girls in that division in strawweight. She's bigger, she's stronger. Now she can use her physicality to her advantage.
Yep.
And there's a lot of girls in the strawweight division that are young and their skill sets are not complete yet. And they don't have the experience that Jillian Robinson has. She grew up in the UFC. Like, she's younger than Rodriguez. And she already has, like, I don't even know how many fights in the UFC. Let me check.
It's been around.
But she holds the record, I think, for most submissions. She has 14 fights in the UFC already. 14.
For
And
women,
she's only
that's amazing.
27.
Yeah.
14
And for her,
fights
she's starting to learn how to grapple a little bit more from a top position. I think that's starting to change for her.
Yeah, she's major problems, dude. I've been saying this ahead of this fight, and she just proved it against Rodriguez. Rodriguez, her job was to stay away from the ground and to stay on the feet, and she just couldn't do that for some reason, right? You know what you're preparing for, and she couldn't do it. And she was talking shit. Like, what are you talking?
Levels to this game, man.
What are you talking to her about? Like, you're losing. You know what I mean? If she was, I don't know what was going on with that, but it was kind of disappointing to see that happen. But Jillian just, you know what I mean? She's one of the nicest girls as well, right? She wasn't even talking shit about it. She was just like, hey, you know, it's not my fault. I got the victory. And I'm going to walk away with the win. And my hype train is continuing, right? So I think you give Jillian Robinson, because she has 14 fights in the UFC, I think you give her like a known name in the strawweight division, like a girl that has some kind of clout, right? That she can build herself off of. I think that's what's next for Jillian Robinson. I think that's what you should do for her, because you need to build the next wave of like contenders, because we've had a few contenders, right, that are kind of like mixing and matching. And I think that you should put somebody in there. What, Sicko, you got a suggestion?
Has she fought Dern?
Nah.
Imagine that grappling match between the two of them.
That's what I'm saying. Like, to be honest, like I think you give her one more name after this, like a name fighter that she can build off of, and the next one you can maybe throw in there with Dern, because Dern already has a fight, I believe. She does, right?
I want to say she has one coming up, bro.
Yeah, she does. She does have one coming up. Let me check. Let me see.
I mean, if she doesn't, she loses.
Yeah, Dern is fighting. Is it 280? Yeah. Oh, wait. No, I don't see her name. She's fighting soon, though. Oh, she's fighting Angela Hill. Yeah, she's fighting Angela Hill.
I mean, you could do the loser of that fight, though.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
There's a lot of options for Jillian Robinson, man. I like her future, man. I think she's gonna be a player in that division now. She's found herself.
One more thing for her: if you are starting jiu-jitsu, especially if you're young and you're just starting, this is why they always say position before submission. Your submission attempts become so much easier when you are dominating a position for that long. Like, she had a couple opportunities earlier to start looking for that armbar, but she was like, nah, I'm going to just stay heavy, keep pounding her out until she just completely forgets about defending this arm, and then I'll get it. It was beautiful to watch.
And the crazy thing is, she could be the best prospect out of Canada at the moment to like be a player in a division, to be in a title contention, right? Like, who else do you see coming out of Canada?
Don't get Rob started on Canadian fighters.
That
I don't know.
it's there's only one. There's only one that I still have disdain for. No, the rest of them was cool. So, anyways, man, Robertson and the whole Canadian equation. Canada is just not producing like they used to. Let's be honest. If like there was a national, if we had like a chart with all the country flags and like their power rankings, this ain't like the 0,000s or the 10,000, the tens and tweens. Uh, Canada is not producing like the fighters at the quantity like they used to. They're not. And as I say that, I'd be remiss to bring up Aubin Mercier's victory over Shane Burgos, which I guess there's real situation. But in this league, in the UFC, there's not a lot of could be's, and you have the added component of the women's division and the women's magic within itself. It's different than the men's categories, and just a couple of wins, like you said, against credible names. You said obviously Dern got brought up. Like, does Verna Jandiroba, is she like legit enough? Do people respect her name enough to like be like, oh, I think so. I think people think she's a pretty tough fighter. So I don't know, man. Robertson could be in her own way, totally in her own way. I'm not matching skill sets and whatever. But when we talk about like a fighter that is developed in the UFC right before your eyes, you get to watch the fighter literally evolve into who she really can be, and it's pretty cool.
It is bright future for her. Now, before we get into these last couple of topics that we're going to dissect, these are some newsworthy items that I wanted to pick Sicko's brain and Jspec as well. Please go in the descriptions, download the AllStar app, and join us in picking fights every week. And we have a show every Thursday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, a pick show where we bring in an expert in the gambling world of mixed martial arts to break down every single fight. Join us there and make your picks, get your info on all of that stuff. Now, let's move on to a couple topics outside of UFC Kansas City. The first one is Leon Edwards, man. I feel like Leon Edwards is grabbing a lot of headlines. Let's put the article on the screen. Can you guys see that? All right, you guys can, right? So Leon Edwards, he's saying in an interview he did recently with Sky Sports, he's saying that he is not going to be coming back to defend his title in July in London, which I think the UFC wanted, you know what I mean? Because who else would headline a pay-per-view in London other than Leon Edwards, the welterweight champion who is from the UK, right?
Yeah.
He's the champ, right? They just did a crazy numbers with the last pay-per-view, so he would be the perfect pick, right? And he said he's not coming back, and he's gonna come back in later at the end of the year, towards the end of the year in Abu Dhabi, the card in Abu Dhabi. What does that mean for the division, right? You got the UFC saying, you got Dana White saying that Colby Covington is next in line. He doesn't care what you think. He doesn't care what the fans think. Because he always used to say, like, or he still says, we put on the fucking fights that the fans want, right? And then it's clear, like, a lot of fans don't want this fight, right? But he's going to put this fight on with Colby Covington. And he's in line, right? And they wanted to put it on in July in the UK, right? That would just be perfect. And I understand the story and all of that, and Colby Covington being hated, and I understand the promotional, viewpoints of that, right? But now that fight is not likely happening, or is it going to happen? And Leon is just leveraging his position to get more money to sign it, because he's already been clear about, like, he doesn't want to sign the contract to fight Colby because Colby doesn't want he doesn't want Colby to get the title shot. He doesn't think he deserves it. Do you think these are mind games happening? And if it is mind games happening, what are the mind games? And after that, we'll discuss, like, if Leon is out until the end of the year, what are the options for the division? Sicko, let's start with you. Are these mind games?
I don't know if they're mind games more than Leon might be just frustrated. I think Leon's just saying, "Hey, man, I became the champion. I got my glory. I got my moment. I got one of the biggest sound bites in the history of the UFC. I got one of the craziest moments in the history of the UFC. My stardom is finally where I always wanted it to be. Why is it that now that I get that, I'm being told who I'm going to fight and when I'm going to fight him and where I'm going to fight him? When did Colby become the guy who gets to make the decisions for me? I think he's looking at it, and I feel like he's just being disrespected. I think he feels disrespected by the UFC, so I think he wants to play some hardball with them. I think he just is frustrated with the whole breakdown of Colby. It's the guy he doesn't want to fight for whatever reason. Even if you say, oh, he doesn't want to fight him because stylistically it's a bad matchup for him, I tend to think that he could have a lot of success against Colby. Maybe I'm the only person that thinks that, but I think he actually could have a lot of success against him. But I just feel like he just feels disrespected by the UFC, saying, "Hey, you have no say here. You're going to do exactly what we want you to do. You're going to fight when, where, and who we want you to, or we'll take your belt away." And Leon's just like, "When does this happen to other champions? And when you just make it immediately one-sided in terms of negotiation for Colby? When did that happen?" So I think Leon's just upset. I think he wants to play hardball with them. Unfortunately, when you do this, it doesn't always work out for the fighter, man. It almost never works out for the fighter whenever the fighter starts playing hardball with the UFC. I definitely see them moving on. I don't think they'll strip him, but I can see a situation where they do an interim title fight with Colby and whoever else is going to be the guy. But for Leon, it's like, cool, that works for me, because isn't that what Leon said he wants to happen anyway? Let Colby and Bilal fight, or let Colby and Burns fight. Whoever feels like they have a claim, let them have a actual number one contender fight and then fight me. So for Leon, he's like, hey, man, it doesn't really matter. And being the champion seems to not really matter a whole lot anyway. So if you're going to strip me, strip me. I think that Leon deserves it, man. That stardom, like how does Jorge get a moment? How does Nate get a moment? How do all these guys get one singular moment, and now they get to dictate so much of their career? Where Leon has his moment, and it's like, no, do exactly what we say when we say it, or we're gonna take this away from you. Seems a little weird to me.
The UFC, they have no problem stripping champions. You know what I mean? Like they will do it. And they have no problem putting together an interim title fight right after a champion has defended the title, right?
Mhm.
Jspec, what do you think is gonna happen?
I hope. I was saying this before.
Don't hope. What do you think is gonna happen?
I think Leon is gonna win. I think Leon wins this because there's nobody else that's propping open the doors for the UFC to make any kind of money in the European market right now. Nobody else of those European fighters. I mean, you can count, Connor if you want as Irish, but I see him more as an American at this point. There's nobody that's their bannerman. There's nobody that sells things over there. Darren Till is off saying he's retiring and then talking about boxing. So Leon has actually some leverage for once in his career, where Mr. got to wait for 8 fights to even get a title shot. Like, if any amount of power he's ever going to have in life is like right now. And I think he gets to fight somebody else. I think he doesn't want Colby, and he's doing whatever it takes to not fight Colby. Not because I think he's scared or doesn't want the matchup. Just I think he thinks it's complete bullshit that Colby's in this equation at all. So yeah, I think Dana White is gonna have to eat his words, and we're not gonna get Colby as the title, as the next title challenger.
I completely support Leon in what he's doing, right? And trying to he's justified. Let's just put it plain and simple. He's justified for what he's trying to do, right? He's trying to base title shot off merit and fighting for that, right? Since he is the champion now. Because why? He was screwed off for so long, right? And he was looked over for so long. So he knows like how it feels to be one of those fighters coming up to be looked over, right? And he's trying to push for that as somebody with some power. We don't know how much power that he really has. Will the UFC play with him? Yes, they will. They'll play ball with him for a short period, very short period. You know what I mean? They're gonna play ball with him to open the door slightly to negotiate something like extra for him to fight in July against Colby. And I feel like they are negotiating right now. And Leon being in the media, it helps him and it doesn't help him as well, right? Because all the stuff that's being said, they're going to be in the boardroom, in the meeting room, talking about this as well, right? Like how this is affecting perception. But the UFC doesn't care about perception, right? They just care about what they're making.
I have a question for you guys.
Mhm.
The UFC, how far back did they book London in July? Was this way before Leon's uh, title defense against Kamaru? Like, did
I
they
don't think
already have
so.
this?
I don't think so.
If it was after,
Yeah.
wouldn't you assume that you would get with the champion from that area and say, hey, what date matches best for you?
Exactly, right? Like that would make sense. Completely make sense, right? Because if you have a pay-per-view, you want a title fight, especially when you got a champion from that area.
So my question is, did that conversation happen? And what did that conversation look like? Did Leon tell them, yeah, July would be great? And they're like, perfect, we got it. It's going to be Colby. And then Leon's like, nah, I'm not fighting in July if it's going to be Colby. Or did that conversation happen? Or did that conversation not happen? And they're like, hey, Leon, by the way, we think it'd be great if you fought in July. We already booked it. It's going to happen in London. And he's like, I never heard anything about that. This is news to me. I don't want to fight in July. And now they're sitting here not knowing what to do. Like I said, Dana has been talking a lot about the mistakes that they've been making lately. This could be another one. They might have booked the venue before they even talked to the guy who they would build the card for, which would be an idiotic mistake, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely a big mistake. And it could give Leon some power, right? But at the same time, the UFC has no problem canceling events at the end of the day. If the people that are in power in that country that are putting on the events don't get the fights that they want to put on, they have no problem canceling events. We've seen events canceled in the past in other countries.
And I blame
know
it
what
on
I
the
mean?
UFC, man. Even Patty's not good to go, right? Like he's still a ways out.
Yeah, but he's not a
Yeah.
pay-per-view draw, right? Like he's not fighting for titles
It
or
could
anything
just
like that.
still having him in London at least, even if he's not. I'm not saying to headline the card, but even if he's just in London, it could still do well for it being a London event. But that's
Oh,
what I'm
for
saying.
sure.
Even with him injured, it doesn't even make sense to book the venue right now
No.
unless they had the okay from Leon, unless they had that conversation with Leon and Leon led them to believe he would be on that card for sure. Then I kind of put the blame on Leon. But if they didn't have that conversation, they missed big time with it. Because you're right. Like, where else do you go? There's not really. And then the guys that are good, or the guys that people would like to see there, that you would think the Darren Till is gone, the Aspinall still out, Patty Pimblett still out,
There you go.
Makayev just got his knee fucking torn to shreds. Like, they know who's gonna be on that card.
Let's just say that Leon is out until, not out as an injured, but he's just out. He's not going to compete until Abu Dhabi, which is at the end of the year. What do you do with the division? Do you put Colby against somebody for? Because I think number one contender fights don't make sense at all because that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything, right? Number one contender fights. We've seen so many number one contender fights that never materialize into title fights, right? This is the number one contender fight, and then the winner doesn't fight for the title next. We've seen that happen many times. But if you make an interim title, that means someone's walking around with the belt, right? So you do have to put that fight together at some point, right? Even if the interim title guy is defending that belt, or something, you know what I mean? Some belt is being, and then it's like you force their hand. So to me, I think that you should have Gilbert Burns and Bilal Muhammad fight each other for an interim title if Leon is dead set determined on not coming back until the end of the year. You have them fight for interim title that allows them to renegotiate their contracts because this is a title fight, maybe make a little bit more money, most likely make a little bit more money. And then whoever wins holds the title, and then that title leads into the unification bout. Because look at what Volk did. Volk went up and fought Islam, And then on the same event, they had Yair and Emmett fight for interim title. And then later on this year in July, who's fighting now? Because Volk didn't win the lightweight title. Volk and Yair, and you unify the titles, right? Why don't you just have the same situation? You know what I mean? Why would you not have that same situation? And Sicko does not agree with us because he just blacked out on us. Go ahead, Jspec.
No, I initially was like, like respect the sanctity of the number one like contendership. Like I get what you're saying. They kind of oof around with the rankings and stuff. I'm an old school purist. Like, yes, I like the idea of having number one contender bouts and then they fight and it's like kind of meaningful. It's not a title bout, but you know what's gonna happen. There's a story. But since we were just talking last episode about the chaos, what are you gonna do with, and that's not a Colby Covington reference, but the chaos within that division because of Colby, that maybe Leon doesn't want to fight, not maybe, but it seems pretty clear. And then we have a worthy challenger in Bilal. Plus, we're talking about the way Gilbert Burns feels and him, you know, threatening, hey, if I don't get my shot, I'm out of here. What a great way, John, to fix all that shit. So I was initially against this whole interim belts because in general, the word interim belt and the interim belt situation kind of just turns me off. But with all that being said, that is actually the perfect solution. You basically cut Colby right out of the story. You let Burns and Bilal, who Bilal needs to be part of this equation. I know he's always the last talked about one, but he needs to be. So it's perfect. And it gives Burns purpose. And like you said, the bridge is now made to the championship for that undisputed. And wow, that good solution.
And 288, they need a fight. So won't you just add another title fight to that? 288 needs another fight.
It makes sense, guys. It makes a whole lot of sense that would happen. But Colby's the prince who's promised. Like, he's gonna fight for an interim bout or the bout itself. It's gonna happen. There's nothing else around it. Whatever happened, whatever was going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, something happened. But Colby was promised. Dana White said it would have been Colby Usman 3 if Usman won. He's gonna fight for the interim belt.
Dana White is a liar. He's historically a liar.
Dana White plays
something's going on.
Something's going on. You know, Dana White this week, he was saying that, oh, you guys need to stop doing this and this. It causes drama. But Dana White does the same shit. Put it out. Yeah, he does the same shit. You know what I mean?
Well, I thought it was hilarious that he was the one, like, he was saying you guys are doing this, but I'm like, it was your soundbite that they were like, you didn't have to speak about John Jones and like you didn't have to speak about him. But anyway, that's a different topic. But yeah. I don't think that it's gonna be anybody besides Colby.
You know what would be funny? Really if Colby does fight for the interim title and he does win the interim title and then he fights for the title and he loses the actual title, the undisputed title, and then he would be the first double fighter to ever like hold 2 interim titles but never actually hold the actual title.
Yeah, because Dustin was just one, right? Dustin was just one interim bout. He never got a second interim bout.
Yeah, it's
I feel like that's very Colby Covington thing to happen. I feel like that's very possible.
I just think that it's going to be Colby and one of those guys, and then whoever is left out is going to be given a fat bag to fight Shavkat. I think that's exactly how it's going to play out.
Hopefully. Let's move on to the next topic, man. This one is actually kind of funny. It actually involves Bilal, right? So let's see what let's see what Bilal's been up to recently. So Bilal, Sean Strickland and Bilal, Chris Curtis detail recent altercation. So Strickland blasted Muhammad for his comments at UFC 287. Look what he says. I guess Bilal was saying I can fight at 185. He wants to move up and fight Hamzat or Sean Strickland if he can't get what he wants at 170. And then Sean Strickland comes back and says, I hate ask his boy to post what happened at the PI. You got the video. Muhammad, you run your mouth. I'm in the cage. If you want to man up and handle this, I'm here. Him quiet looking around for help as he walked away. Had your chance and you were a pussy about it. Now Sean Strickland, Jspec. Look, yes, sir. What do you think of him? What do you just think of him and his antics and him posting videos of like sparring sessions and things like that, and even just like revealing stories that could be true or could not be true.
I'll take that in pieces. So, training footage, that stuff. I think I'm pretty sure that's like a big no. Like you don't leak footage, but I know it happens all the time. But that purposely putting out training footage, or leaking about training with people, I think that's distasteful. On the other hand, Strickland, when it comes to word games, storytelling, whether it's built on a, you see so many movies based on a true story. Well, then that means like this much of the story is true and all the rest of it is fabricated, right? Like, so Strickland is a perfect example, maybe not perfect, but yeah, let's go with perfect example on how mic skills are relevant in today's world of being an athlete and a mixed martial artist, right? There's many different ways of going about it, and he's chosen what I interpret as incredible stand-up, like stand-up. He's a comedian. The dude is sarcastic, he says catchy things, and he acts hard, all in a beautiful blend of comedy and borderline psycho. I'm hard, I'll fight you anywhere. Like, it's a very nice dance that he does with his persona. And Bilal, come on, man. But Bilal's no saint either. He likes to play different roles. He's not as fluid though. Sometimes his is like, oh, I'm being real hard, and then he's like, oh, look, I'm trying to be funny. Strickland is a little bit more mix of that. I'm not against Strickland getting the shine on. However, he does it. He gets people going. He creates reactions. He's not annoying. He has his own formula that he does, and I like it. I'm all for it.
Sicko, man. What do you think of?
It's provocative. It gets the people going. That's what we got here, man. I mean, to me, we're in the WWE era now, baby. It's two characters sticking to their characters, it's almost like they had writers for them. Like, hey, we want to make this little side thing go on, and it has a lot to do with nothing. I don't think that these guys are going to fight each other anytime soon. Maybe in a sparring session again somewhere, cool. But I think it's just two guys who are sticking to their character roles, who are a little bit cringy at times, just kind of doing what they do. That's all I chalk it up as. It's cool though. I like it.
Sean Strickland, him challenging people like to step into the cage and fight them for free. That's just stupid. Like, why would you do that? You're a professional fighter. Professional fighter means like you get paid to fight. Why would you fight for free? And then have people record it, and then just spread over the internet for free?
Yeah.
Why would you do that? What would be the point of that? And then him going around saying like, yo, you called out somebody at the PI and they didn't want to step into of course they're not going to step into the cage. They're not going to get paid to do that. They're not getting paid to go spar you. Like, you've seen the videos of Sean Strickland just beating the shit out of people. Like, legit, like guys we don't know. You know what I mean?
Random
We have no idea who
Yeah.
he's sparring. Like, just guys in gyms around the country. And he's just beating the shit out of people. Like, I don't think that is something that you should be promoting, to be honest with you. But like you said, it gets the rounds on social media. The news cycle, it allows him to be in the news cycle all the time, and people are outraged, or they're entertained, or they're cringed by it somehow, some way.
Yeah.
And that's what Sean Strickland is now. Because really, at the end of the day, is he the cream of the crop in that division at 185?
No.
It looked like he was going to be, right?
It looked like
But
was
then
going to be.
he kind of hit a wall. You know what I mean? He kind of hit a wall. Right?
A wall hit him.
Yeah, he got hit by a wall.
And
I think
it's
this is just good character build, man. I think it just fits Sean Strickland's character. I'm crazy. The the guy who says he stays up all night thinking about how he wish he would have got out of his car and beat the shit out of some guy for road rage, and then you just go to decision after decision after decision where you're a calculated fighter. Like, you're not that psycho crazy guy. Like, you are calculated, and this just fits your character build. This just fits what you are selling. This is right on brand for Sean Strickland. So,
and I have no problem with fighters manipulating the media to get what they want, because now it's become a thing. Now it's become a thing. Like you said, it's entertainment, right? So the UFC, there's a lot of fighters doing it, right? There's the Dana White's doing it. You know what I mean? He acts like he's not, but he is all the time. And even like you see kind of like even like journalists trying to do it as well. Like they're the media, but they're manipulating the media at the same time. It's weird, man. It's just very weird.
Got journalists trying to fight each other now.
Yeah, you know, whatever. if you are a journalist or not, I don't know. But yeah, just Sean Strickland though, trying to fight people. Let's just keep it at that. Trying to fight people outside of like sanctioned fights is just stupid. And someone in the comments is saying that him trying to call out guys that are smaller in divisions lower than him, that's a weird move. Yeah, it's a weird move. It's something that, you know, you become a bully. And I think he's become like the new Mayhem Miller. Jason Mayhem Miller. Like, he's become like the new transformed 2020s version of Jason Mayhem Miller.
Yeah.
Seriously. Like, he gives me those vibes, dude. Like, he gives me those vibes. And, you know, this is fighting as well. You get away with a lot. Please. Yeah, you get away with a lot. And I've been around Jason Mayhem Miller before. I actually was around him, like, I don't even know how many years ago, in Bangkok, of all places. Like, just hung out with him for a while. And he was
sounds like the place
I want to see
be hanging out with, bro. That's like, I want to. Where's these videos at, bro? That's the one I want to.
And
talk
this was
about.
like when he was kind of, I think he was like right when he left the UFC, or maybe he was at the tail end of his UFC career, when he was kind of going through some stuff, and he seemed normal. Like, he wasn't like crazy or anything like that. He just seemed very normal to me. You know what I mean? Like, from my limited time around him. But yeah, the media and manipulating it is what it is. But to me, like, calling out guys smaller than you and trying to fight them outside of like a sanctioned fight when you are a professional fighter, to me, that's just very odd behavior and unnecessary, right? Yeah. The opposite of super necessary. It's very unnecessary. Now let's move on to the last topic. We'll close it out with this one. Let's get it on the screen. This one is pretty crazy, right? Carl Robertson apparently arrested with marijuana, crack cocaine, and in a connection with a robbery. So Robertson was apparently taken into custody by Howell Police Department in connection to a December robbery. What is going on with Carl Robertson, right? So here it is. Carl Robertson was arrested during a motor vehicle stop in Neptune. He was driving a vehicle that investigation revealed had been connected to the burglary. Following his arrest, a search warrant was conducted on the vehicle. During the search, officers found a defaced 9mm handgun, which basically means like the serial numbers were sanded off or whatever. Yeah. And with an extended magazine. So extended magazine, that's something that usually means that you are going to war with somebody, right? Several packages of suspected crack cocaine, marijuana, and items related to the burglary. Robinson was charged with burglary, theft, criminal mischief, possession of controlled dangerous substance, and several weapons offenses. This is not good at all. Just that right there. Just this right here. Several weapons offenses, dude. Like, several weapons offenses? That doesn't sound too good. Sicko, from your knowledge of like anything, what is your reaction to like a fighter?
Sounds like a good time. Sounds like a good time to me. Sounds like a good Friday night. No, I mean, that's crazy. Carl Robertson is what Sean Strickland pretends to be. He seems like he's a crazy motherfucker, got some demons. I don't know what the hell that man got going on, man. Those charges are serious. You know, the marijuana depends on how much. Like, what are we looking at, right? Because it's either nothing or okay, you're distributing some shit. But I saw, if you go up a little bit further, I saw something that said $200,000 of jewelry right there.
Okay, there you go. It says $200,000 worth of exotic jewelry and other items were allegedly stolen. So
Okay,
he
so they
was
didn't
part of
catch him
a
with
decent
that
robbery.
stuff. They didn't catch him. They didn't catch him with that stuff. Then the jewelry itself. It seems like they just, the car was what kind of fucking got him. Which, hey, get rid of the car, bro. Why are you driving around the same car that you used to rob some shit?
See,
You're a rookie. Step your game up. Why would you still, like, is it just your daily use? Like, you're ever gonna use this to go rob people? Like, what are you doing?
that's where I start to jump in. I'm gonna put on my defense attorney fucking sports coat right here. And how okay, one, I don't know Carl Robertson's personal life. I don't even know if he has a car. I know some fighters struggling and they borrow people's cars and borrow people's bikes and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Are we 100% sure that this is Carl's car? Like, did he borrow this from somebody else? Did somebody borrow his car maybe the night before or whatever? Like, where's the plausible deniability in this? Because the loot wasn't in the car, just like you're saying, right? That what the good take wasn't there, but the weapon or a weapon or so, plus all the
Weapon,
drugs,
weed,
like,
and cocaine.
yeah, I mean, one, if Carl's rolling around slaying that shit, doing his thing, then yeah, he got caught up. But like you said, it seems kind of off knowing that what you got and then to roll around on a car that is hot, like, but the loot wasn't there. Like, that's the part that makes me think that there could be a second player involved in the story and we don't know. Obviously, did the arrest in there say anybody else was arrested with him, or was he arrested all by himself?
He was arrested by himself.
Okay, so just the fact that the jewels and stuff wasn't there, but the car that's allegedly part of that crime and like all this other mixed stuff, it just makes me think that there's somebody else, that Carl wasn't by himself.
Oh, what says
Okay.
related items related to the burglary? So maybe there
Yeah.
was, some of the take in there.
Well, the thing is, one thing that's a positive note to the charges is that it says burglary rather than robbery.
Right.
Because if it was
Gotcha.
robbery, he's doing time. Like, that's guaranteed. Like,
Right.
you went in there and you forced someone to give you $200,000 worth of jewelry. There's a difference, right? If it was
Right.
burglary, that means no one was there. You know what I
Tiptoed
mean?
around,
Maybe you could, if you don't have a priors, you know what I mean? You could get a good lawyer. They could maybe get you, a little bit of time and maybe even get you probation at the worst, right? Or at the best.
What the other part of this part that makes no sense to me, and that's just because I don't know shit about this, but why weed and what was it? Sound like amphetamines or like
Crack cocaine.
Crack cocaine.
Well, you
yeah,
put those two
like,
together, what you get?
I don't know. So that's the
Right?
point. That
So-
to me, I've never seen those two groups I've seen crackheads and I've seen stoners. I've never seen them hanging out together. So that was another mystery. I don't know how criminal life works like that, but that's all of this is so strange. So strange. If all I'm gonna say is if Kara is not, guilty, which that's how the law works. He's not guilty of all these crimes, maybe some of them. I just hope the right amount of justice for what he actually did is served, if he did anything at all. So
I want to know if he's caught a body.
The thing is,
I mean, what you need that handgun with the
gonna-
extended mag and it's crashed off for? Like, is there a body under Carl Robertson's name we don't know about?
That's another red flag as well. Two red flags. Of course, you have weapons charges, right? Which is never a good thing. That could be prison time for you. Another thing is that a defaced 9mm handgun, which means the serial numbers on the gun were most likely filed off, so you can't trace it. Only way to trace it would be the what do you call it? The bullet. Like,
ballistic
ballistics,
analysis,
right?
And that's what they're going to
ballistic.
do. They're going to take the gun. They're going to do ballistic analysis and any other crimes or drive-bys.
Exactly, and
it's going to be attributed to him. Yeah.
If this gun was used in any kind of crime, it was shot anybody, like you said, Sicko. If it killed anybody, like, he could be pinned with these murders.
Or if there's a rash of robberies, like you said, this wasn't a robbery, this
Exactly.
is a
Well,
burglary.
if he
But
used the gun, you can't just like if he used the gun during the robberies or during the
right,
burglaries, yes, like you could connect
right,
him to it. But usually, like with defaced handguns, I mean, the problem with that is like you don't know where those handguns came from, and let's say he bought that off of somebody in the street, and that was like handed down from like person to person to person to person. You don't know what the history of the handgun is. You could be pinned with whatever crimes that handgun was used during, right? Which could be
yeah,
murders or whatnot. And people are thinking like, how do you know so much? You could watch any show, any like crime show, and they kind of give you understanding of like what can happen with guns and stuff
watch
and
court TV
robberies.
for an
And
afternoon,
yeah,
learn all that
exactly,
shit.
right. And yeah, it's not a good thing, man. It's not a good thing for Carl Robertson. Uh,
Yeah,
and
it's
he
out
was,
there.
I mean, it's like he was involved in some shit, man. Like this is this is uh this is something to keep an eye on. You know what I mean? Hopefully, I mean, he could get out of this unscathed, but you don't just drive. And it's like, how stupid are you?
Yeah.
You're driving around in a car that's connected to a burglary with things that are connected to the burglary used during the burglary. Like it's almost like it's so stupid. Like you must be on drugs.
Yeah,
That's true. It's so stupid you must be on drugs. Or
like it wasn't planned.
yeah, or it was,
Or
maybe
was it
somebody,
planted on him?
or that's what I'm saying. Maybe he's somebody's scapegoat. That's what I'm saying.
Or did they plan it on him?
Dun dun
You know what I mean?
dun.
Exactly. It's
Like we
tricky.
get deeper, we gotta go
I think though
conspiracy theory.
the quickest way to solve it would be just like make him pee on the spot and do a test. If he comes up with no crack cocaine in his system right on the spot. All right, I'm starting
Well,
to
that's
listen
the
to
drugs. That's the
yeah.
drugs. But like, let's say,
But
what
if
about the
you're
guns
cracking
and
out, you're
all that
stealing
stuff? You
shit.
know what I mean?
I think he good
If
on the drug charges, to be
Yeah,
honest.
the
Like
drug
I mean,
charges is not
again,
a big
depending on
deal.
how much it is, depending
if
on
you're
the
cracking out, you're
amount.
It
stealing
doesn't
shit.
seem like it's gonna be too much, right? Because maybe just for some personal use, right?
If it's
But
personal use, he's good.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
the gun charges and then the car obviously
I
related to the
guarantee you, if it
burglary.
was a hefty amount of like marijuana and crack cocaine, then they would set it right in the report,
I
most
said
likely.
several weapons offenses. What else, right? It's not
That's
just
what I'm
the one
saying. Like, what
handgun.
other weapons
Several
are there?
weapons
Like,
offenses.
besides the 9mm handgun, like
Like a
that's
samurai sword
serious,
in the
man.
trunk.
Well, I
Like,
don't know
weapons
that
charges are
state's
serious,
laws, but
especially
like
nowadays with like all these shootings happening. You don't know how the courts are handling like weapons charges for people. So
different states have different modification rules. Like that extended clip in itself might not be permitted in that state or
Right.
the county. It
hey,
could have
silencers are like some states, I think, or federally, silencers are like 15 years minimum.
silencers, or even sometimes laser guided
Yeah, lasers, like
lasers in some states. It makes it a whole extra crime. Like
bulletproof
yeah,
vests. Like you get caught with those, you get like prison time for that as well. You know what I mean?
That would
In some
suck though,
states.
man. That would suck if it wasn't his car. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. What if
or
it
if it
wasn't
was his car and somebody borrowed it and then robbed somebody with it. Like if he was just like, bro, if he literally was like, I had no idea what was going on
That's
with
what
the
I'm
car.
saying.
What if it wasn't his car and like he needed the car to go to training, right? Or just for that day because his
That's
car
what I
was in the
mean.
shop and his
He had no
homeboy was
idea what
like,
was in
yo,
there.
you could borrow my car. And then his homeboy called the police and said, yo, like there's a dude.
We're going deep now.
Yeah, like dude is like rolling around in the car and shit. Like I know he's
There's
like something connected, right? I'm just saying it's not, you know what I mean? When you got haters, right?
there's
Like,
confidential informants that do that shit. That is a real thing.
I mean, maybe. I think he probably, because like you said, it was a burglary, not armed robbery. He probably snuck in somewhere, hit a
but
lick,
we don't even know if he actually
took
did
off.
that.
All I'm saying is test
I'm
him for
assuming
crack.
because of the charge. The charge was burglary, and because of the car when he was driving it, he still had the shit in there. Like to me, it seems like I got away with this scot-free. I'm good to drive this car. Nobody saw me. Nobody was even there. I just hit a lick. I'm good. And maybe there was a camera. Something happened where they were able to find out what car it was, and he didn't even know the car was hot, and he just doesn't even know what's going on.
But if all of this is true, right? And the possibilities of like the time that he can serve, we might never see him fight again.
I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That could be a possibility, man. Like it would suck that if he was set up as well by somebody, that would completely suck. That he's just going to do some time for somebody else, and but you don't know what's going on in these fighters' lives, man. At the same time, like you don't know where they come from. A lot of these fighters, they don't come from the best upbringings, right? They're fighters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's that old story of like boxers. You know what I mean? The best boxers come from the worst places, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the UFC is not any different, man. A lot of the best fighters come from places where they don't want to go back, right? They don't want to leave. Like think of a lot of the Brazilians, man, where they come from, dude. Like some heavy, like the Brazilians I know, they talk about where they grew up. I'm just like, damn, that's like 10 times worse than anywhere in the States. Like the favelas and shit like that.
I
It's
ever see
insane.
that the video that Pereira posted, Peloton? It was on his YouTube channel where he shows like the house that he grew up in and the neighborhood that he grew up in and stuff. I was like,
No,
damn. And he was talking about it like, yeah, it wasn't that bad. I'm just like, oh man, the house is just tiny little thing, man. Just a weird, but you're just like, damn, really had to live through that. But Carl, if you're listening, snitch on them, Carl. Get out of there.
Yeah, man. I hope the best for Carl. For me, it's real simple, man. If he tests positive for crack cocaine, then he's doing all that shit. And if he's clean of the crack cocaine, then I'm willing to listen to what his side of the story is. You know, it's possible.
Who's not testing positive for a little crack cocaine? Am I right?
Yeah, that's not an accidental shit.
How are you smoking crack and training? Like to me, it's like, damn.
How could you not?
Dude, I mean,
it's 5 rounds. It's a 5-round Tuesday. I need all the help I can get.
If there could have been that NASA scientist guy that was running NASA for like almost a dozen years, was all cracked out, like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of functioning addicts out there.
I mean, guys, we could probably guess correctly about 10 current UFC fighters who we think might be on some cocaine right now.
Crack cocaine. Yeah. What the hell?
They would. There's a lot.
I never thought we'd talk about crack cocaine in 2023. Like, that's such a 90s drug. Like, how is it still around?
It's still crazy. Around, man. It's still prevalent and still going crazy. There you go, man. A crazy, crazy week in combat sports, and we're gonna have many more crazy weeks coming. Everybody, make sure you guys go in the descriptions and download the AllStar app to make your picks. We'll be back on Thursday evening, 10 p.m. Eastern for the pick show. And we'll be going through all the fights, breaking them down, and we'll have a guest. We'll have Mike from Mike's MMA Picks back on the show, one of the nicest guys in the community and very, very knowledgeable of fights. Hit that subscribe. Sicko, where can they find you so they could
Twitter,
watch all your other stuff?
Yeah, just Twitter at Sicko Sports, on YouTube, Sicko Sports Podcast. Find me on there as well. One thing, Friday, Rob knows what I'm trying to plug. I need to get paid for plugging this, by the way. One championship fight night, Nongo versus Haggerty, 8 p.m. Eastern time. That shit's going to be crazy. Don't miss it.
Right, one champion. Yeah, one championship. Hit up Sicko because he's your American champion. He's he loves
I'm the only one supporting y'all. I'm the only one out here screaming at the top of my lungs. Watch one championship.
You're gonna be up watching?
It's 8 p.m. Eastern time on Friday.
Okay. So yeah, for me it's Saturday. All right. Well, yeah, definitely. Well, I usually do fight companions over on SEMP for all the major one championship shows. So hit me up over there on Saturday morning in Asia, Friday night in the US. But yeah, everybody.
I got one thing I want to share. This week we'll be giving away Kai Kamaka fight shirts. Had the opportunity to meet up with Kai. Did an autograph signing for his fight gear that he's wearing to this Saturday's Bellator in Hawaii. Bellator doing a doubleheader in Hawaii. Viva la Hawaii! And so we're doing an autograph giveaway shirt. You know the handle. You know where to be on Twitter. We'll be doing that during the fight. So there you go.
All right, there you go. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you guys subscribe, and we'll be back in a couple of days. Peace, love, and crack cocaine.